everybody, and welcome to Players, Performers, and Portrayers. I am your host, Julia Steyer, and today I am joined by Ahmed Best. Ahmed, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks
Ahmed
for having
is,
me.
yes, oh my gosh, we're so excited. Ahmed is the Associate Artistic Director of the Echo Theater here in Los Angeles, and he is director of their new show, Ascension, written by D.G. Watson. Now, this guy is amazing. Like, I'm going to read you his bio right now, and I could not believe everything he's done. So, you might know him best as Jar Jar Binks from Star Wars The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. He currently hosts both Star Wars Jedi Temple Challenge and the Afrofuturist podcast. He's also the creator, writer, and director of two web series, including the comic sci-fi series The Nebula. As an actor, he starred in the musical Stomp on Broadway. As CEO of BISN Media, he is executive producer of Dinner at LOLA and the DL Chronicles. As a martial artist and fight choreographer, he is the recipient of multiple Ovation, Stage Raw, TicketHolderLA, and Scenie awards, including for Echo Theater Company's productions of Backyard and Blueberry Toast. He is also an adjunct lecturer at USC School of Dramatic Arts, fight on, adjunct lecturer at the Hasso Plattner Institute of Design at Stanford, and a senior fellow at the USC Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism. Oh my gosh, how do you find time for all of that?
I don't, I'm constantly tired. I'm always running around trying to figure out how to get some rest.
Oh my gosh. I feel that. Well, I'm so excited to talk to you about Ascension because I have never heard a play described this cool. So, Ascension is described as an interactive sci-fi futuristic cyber play. So, can you tell us a little
Yes.
bit about the show and what kind of interaction audiences can expect? I know that the word interactive can make people a little nervous sometimes, so I'm just curious to hear kind of what people can expect when they walk into this.
Yeah, we tell you kind of upfront that it's interactive and immersive because audiences sometimes are turned off by that, right? They don't want to have an immersive, interactive experience. They just want to have a passive experience, which we are perfectly okay with.
Mm-hmm.
However, what I'm trying to do and what we try to do at the Echo is really just push the boundaries of what theater could be and talk philosophically and a bit deeply about what's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on in our world today. Ascension was commissioned by the Echo for D.G. Watson to originally be a play on Zoom.
Oh,
And
fantastic. Okay.
because we couldn't be in a theater, we kind of wanted to continue creating work and making work. So there were two cyber plays that were commissioned by the Echo. This one is the second. However, when things started opening up and the vaccine started happening and we knew that we could be back in a theater, we decided to put Ascension up with people in the theater, in the
Mm.
seats. But the cyber element of the play is still in existence, right? So we do work a lot with things that we find familiar, like video calls, right? Now that Zoom has become this popular, nomenclature program of the day, like you can Zoom now as a verb, we
Yeah.
wanted to inject all of these kind of things that we've been dealing with over the pandemic into the stage play. So
Mm.
there are all of these like cyber elements in the play that have to do with interactivity with the video screens. We created an artificial intelligence that is a character in the
Oh,
play,
I love
and
that.
she talks back to the character and then shows up on stage in various different forms and permutations. And it was
Mm.
wonderfully acted, as well as like adding elements like keeping your cell phone on and using, what we have technologically to enhance the play. That's how it becomes immersive, right?
I love
The
that.
audience is asked to participate. And so when you enter the world of Ascension, as soon as you walk in through the door, the stage extends through the entire room. So
Mm.
we'll talk to you, we'll call you, we'll look at you, we'll speak to you, and you'll be involved. The way the play moves forward is not just through the actors on stage, but through the audience.
Hmm.
So it's a sci-fi play, which isn't done very often on stage. Sci-fi is challenging to do on stage because of what we couldn't do. It was really easy to portray sci-fi on a screen because design-wise, technologically,
Right.
using, computer graphics, imaging, and all of these other things, it would be easier for, science fiction to be believable. But now we have all of those tools at our disposal live on stage. So it's a lot easier to do plays that are based in the future or based in the near future or a distant future or out in space, because we can actually build those environments. And the designer, Jesse Gilbert, the screen designer, who he and I have interactive extended reality company here in Los Angeles where we build things. He and I decided to add to the stage play.
Fantastic. And I love so much just kind of what you said about using the technology that we've become familiar with, because, you know, obviously we had phones and video chats before COVID, but you're right, Zoom has taken over, and talking to each other in this way and communicating this way has become such a big part of our life. And it's really, really cool to hear how you guys are taking that and bringing it into the storytelling. What inspired the creation of the play? I mean, I know you said it was commissioned originally as a Zoom play, but I was reading some interesting things about, you know, talking about how do we connect when we can see each other but not, you know, be with each other.
Yeah, well, DG Watson and I would have these conversations about how the time of lockdown during the pandemic just didn't feel real. Like it felt like we were in some sort of dystopian science fiction play. Anyway, right?
Yes.
You know, we're all talking to each other on screens. We can't leave the house. It takes like 10 minutes to get from Hollywood to Santa Monica. Like all of these things are unknown, you know, like nobody could ever think about this. So we really started having these conversations about what's real and what's perceived to be real. And then, you know, throughout the entire last presidency, with all the misinformation going on about vaccines and about voting rights and all of these things, we recognize it's really easy to manipulate people's belief system into what they think is actually possible and what's not possible. So we've decided to use that idea of what's real and what's not real, what's in your head, what's not in your head, what's now and what's the future, in creating this play. And we're really playing with this idea that, you know, some astrophysicists believe, or there's a popular theory out there, that we're all living in simulation anyway. So we just played on that, like we're all living in this simulation, and that's, you know, the play is challenging those ideas.
Ooh, gosh, I just got like, I'm so excited. This sounds so cool and so. The neat thing about it is that I feel like you guys are going to be touching on a very, whether we recognize that it's a fear we all have, you guys are going there and poking at it and being like, you know, what is happening? What does that mean? What does that mean for human communication? And so I just think it sounds so special, and I think it's going to really resonate with a lot of people. What do you hope audiences take away from this show?
Well, I want, you know, we are trying something new, and we're trying to bring into the vocabulary of live theater these screen elements, right? And extended reality has become such a thing in movies, right? But at the end of the day, everything ends up in two dimensions, regardless of whether or not you have a screen as a set piece in scenery or not, right? The set piece in XR, and then you put actors in front of the set piece, which is a screen, and then you put all of that on a screen, right? So we all end up in two dimensions when we talk about this. The thing that's so wonderful about theater, and the thing that I think we all missed about theater, is having live people in the space, right? So to be able to have a 2-dimensional and a 3-dimensional and a 4th dimensional, which is time, right? Play, right? We can play on all of those themes, and all of those different levels can be characters in the play. And the more we do that, the more immersive and special the theater experience becomes. And that's what I think we need. We need more of this special theater experience. If we're going out there and we're going to sit in a space, and what, you know, the pandemic taught us also is it's very easy to get things beamed right into your living room, right? So if there was a movie that was released in the theaters, it'd be released on a platform, a streaming platform simultaneously, right? Which gives like the same experience, just different size screens. So now with theater, you can have a completely unique experience that changes every show, that still uses the technology of the screen elements, but adds this other dimension. And I think there's a wonderful kind of middle ground where this size theater could be incredibly popular and lucrative, right? Because going to the movies has become increasingly more expensive. And a lot of people are not going to go to the movies because they want to be in their underwear in their living room watching the same movie, right?
Yes.
So, rather than having the revenue, the studio execs thought they were doubling the revenue by giving you two places to see the film, right? It hasn't turned out that way, right? It's like people choose whether or not to do it theater or to do it at home. Now with live theater, with plays, you don't really have to choose. You get these big screen, vast vista elements, right? You get these enormously, and the sky's the limit when it comes to extended reality and live people, right? So it's an extremely unique experience, and it price point wise, ticket sales wise, it lands right in the middle of big screen and streaming services.
Yes.
So it's just a unique experience.
And I love that too. And it's something, there's a reason to see it multiple times because it does change each time. And even if you're watching a show that's not interactive, I know people who go back and watch the same show just because they're like, it's live every single night. There's going to be something different. I'm so interested that you said it was originally written for Zoom and is now being, presented live. It's so funny because normally I ask people the opposite. I ask, what are some of the things that you miss about live theater that Zoom has kind of taken away? But I'm curious if you guys faced anything going the opposite way of something that maybe would have worked better on Zoom and you're now missing because it's going to be live, or if you're just very relieved that it's going to be live.
Yeah, no, we are extremely happy that it's live.
Yeah.
But with any type of hybrid experience, it's going to take time for people to understand that it's a thing, right? On screen, everyone would have understood the science fiction nature of the show, right? Because we have grown to accept that in two dimensions.
We see it all the time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're used to it. We have shows. If you say sci-fi and it's on a screen, people believe it. If you say sci-fi and it's live, the suspense of disbelief is a lot harder to achieve, right? So there are going to be people who are not going to understand it because they're just not used to theater like this.
Yes,
right?
Totally.
So it's going to take time, and there's going to be a lot more theater like this. And when we get used to it, and when we have more of a vocabulary on how to talk about this kind of theater, it will be much more accepted. But right now we have to almost, guide you through this experience, right? And there are a lot of things that we couldn't do because it was like a first step. It was because we had to guide people through, right? We didn't want to throw everything at you at once because it would have been too much.
Yeah.
But the younger people who are, who grew up digital, really get it. Right. It's just people my age and older who are just like, what is this? Is this theater? Is this movies? What is it? I don't understand. Right. Younger people who are used to seeing something live and on their phone at the same time and augmenting that reality will definitely not only understand this, but they'll be the audience and the pioneers of it.
I love that. I love that. And I love that too, that it's going to be bringing in a new crowd of theater goers. I know there's been a big push in LA to get the younger crowds out to the theaters, to get them to see stuff that will engage them, make them think. So I think that's really exciting that you guys are presenting this medium, that it's not only will you guys find it accessible, but you'll get it. You will get it more so than the older audiences. And I'm so excited to see how that works out. Now, you did mention how much it can change when you have an audience there because there is audience interaction. How did that work for directing it? What was the rehearsal process like when, essentially half your cast isn't there? So were there any unique challenges that came up with that?
Yeah, I mean, for the actors as well, it was a new experience. I've done interactive shows before. So I've figured out how audiences respond and reply to things. And the way DG Watson and I crafted the show was assuming audiences were going to respond in specific ways.
Okay.
So we had a bunch of prompts, and we've written into the script how audiences may or may not respond. So we made a lot of assumptions that worked. But the beautiful thing about it being live is there are some things that happen that we didn't assume,
Oh.
right? Which are phenomenal.
Yeah.
And we have such an amazingly talented cast that they are just brilliant with working with that nuance every show.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had it. You know, when you have a show that's so based in tech, of course, things break, right?
Yes.
So we always have to deal with something not happening. You know, we're running the whole show. The whole show is built on, you know, a computer.
Right.
So we have to run each thing through the computer before it gets to the stage, right?
Yeah.
And you know, the artificial intelligence that was created by Jesse Gilbert, my partner. It's a character, and the character has lines, and the character is going to say those lines, you know? So we have to make sure that the character is functional, or else we don't have a play. So there have been times that we had technical difficulties, and, you know, and this is why I think the hybrid version of tech and live action works so well, because the actors can think on the fly. They're so fast and so smart that they can deal with the glitches, and it creates a brand new experience.
Is a lot of the show improvised because of the interaction, or does the improv really just more come up when the tech stuff goes off the rails?
Yeah. The show is not improvised. I mean, everything is written. Everything is written. The audience interaction part is not scripted in a very concrete way. Right. So, you know, there are times Karen Sowers, who plays Monica, and Sherelle Mack, who plays Rebel, the two leads of the play, they're constantly talking back and forth to the audience. Right. Sometimes they're in the audience. So they have to interact, and they really have to talk to who's around, and they respond to what the audience members are saying, even if they don't say anything. Right. And so, and we also have another character played by Leandro Cato, who really holds the audience to task. Like, he really makes sure that the audience is responsible when it comes to communicating with everyone on stage.
That's fantastic.
So those are the parts where, you know, it really takes an improv kind of mind to get around and to get you back into the script of the play.
I love that. He's kind of the guide. He keeps it to the plot points, it sounds like, kind of guides you there. Fantastic. Now, I started Players, Performers, and Portrayers originally as a resource guide for early career artists, and you've done everything. So I'll just pick two things. And I was wondering if you had any advice for aspiring actors or directors.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think as actors and directors, we have to be aware of where we are and when we are. And, you know, I teach this at USC in my MFA classes. I teach actor entrepreneurship, and I teach filmmaking.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
And this is kind of a new course that I helped create at the School of Dramatic Arts. And it really does look at actors and their superpower, right, of being able to feel, right? Actors are addicted to portraying characters emotionally, right? And so how do you take that superpower of being able to harness and perform those emotions and turn them into directing muscles and writing muscles and editing muscles, or whatever, like as general storytellers? And I think nowadays, with things that are so accessible and the tools that make it easier to make things, it is much easier to craft the career that you want rather than make the career and wait for the career that somebody is going to give you. Right.
I love that.
So right now, what I teach and what I usually like to say is take those actor muscles, take those director muscles, and go make things. And it doesn't have to be, you know, cinema quality stuff, right? At the end of the day, story is still king. And if you can make the story happen, it doesn't matter what you do it on. Go play, right? Go play and get it out, either on stage or on screen or on camera, right? The hardest thing about when I was coming up was the distribution models. You didn't have YouTubes and TikTok and Reels and all of
Right,
those things. You didn't
right.
have those things, right? You either had a stage or you had a movie deal, right?
Yeah.
And so, in New York, I grew up in New York. In New York, there are a lot of stages. So that's what we did. We just got on stage. We would make things and get on stage. And if we weren't on stage, we'd be like on the street, doing things on the street, or in the subway, doing things on the subway.
Yeah.
But we got it out. We went out there and we played. And I think a lot of times younger people are inside and they're not playing as much. And when they are playing, they're not crafting their play, right? They're kind of trying to get it in the moment at the time.
Yes.
And the hardest thing
Yes.
about that is it's very difficult to recreate that, right?
Yeah.
It's very difficult to capture lightning in a bottle twice, which is why you have like creator burnout, which is why you have, one viral video instead of 10 viral videos, right? Because you're trying to catch that lightning in a bottle. And it's very challenging to do. So, what I teach is how to create and craft things so you can make multiple things and have those things be viewed multiple times and remain consistent in quality.
I love that. And I'm so happy that that is becoming like so I did go to USC as well and I did their undergraduate program and exactly what you're teaching is what all of us were like, we feel like that'll be like that helpful skill once we get out of here is not how to sit around and wait for the role, is how to create it, how to make it, how to get out of that fear of, like exactly what you're saying of, oh, well, if it doesn't look perfect and shiny, it's no good. It's like, no, people are making entire movies on iPhones. People are
Mhm.
becoming hits on TikTok. So I absolutely love everything you're teaching in there. And I'm so happy that that class exists. Now we only have a couple minutes left. So with my last question, I just wanted to ask you, is there anything I should have asked or anything you would like people to know either about you, about Ascension, about your work with Echo? The floor is yours.
I just would love I really believe that theater is in need of a bit of a kick in the pants. And I think for a really, really long time, folks looked at theater as one thing.
Mm.
And I think theater can now be multiple things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the acumen and the intelligence and the technological advancement of how younger people are interacting with one another day to day can be brought inside the theater and turned into something new and turned into something extremely special. And I would definitely encourage younger people to look at theater multidimensionally and not just a play on stage, right? You can do so much with those words. You can expand and create worlds and universes that that you are familiar with, that haven't seen the stage before. And I'm looking forward to the younger generation taking this theater experience, taking this play experience, and really giving it a kick in the pants. Yes. And showing the rest of us what it could be.
I love that. Blowing the doors wide open on what, the next generation of theater is going to look like.
Bring it. We need it. It's necessary.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. If you guys want to see Ascension, performances are taking place Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, October 6th through November 18th at Atwater Village Theater, and you can get your tickets at www.echotheatercompany.com. And thank you again so much for joining us. This was such a special conversation, and I'm going to keep that craft your play with me for a very long time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you so very much.
Thank you.